Hello, everybody. This is Dale Matthews, and I'm joined by Mike Jones and Bill Hunker. Hello, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good to be here.
Good evening, Dale. How's it going?
Good, good. Now, you can see that Mike is in a different location than he usually is. He's in California. We could say he's on assignment, but that would be a bit of an exaggeration.
Yes, it would be. I'm on my own personal assignment, so that's a different thing. It involves like shovels and blisters on your hands.
Okay, shovels, that's one of the things that we need here in Josephine County. Is first I thought maybe just a broom to clean up, but we really do need those big
Right. I could
shovels.
tell you where I buried the body, but then I'd have to kill you. So
Yeah, well, not on the show, not live.
yeah.
And the other thing is, here's Bill Hunker, and he's broadcasting live from his house. Wow, that's impressive, Bill.
Yeah, brand new connection, so we're hoping it's going to treat us well tonight. We'll see if that's why Mike's here. I'm sure that if I drop out completely, then you guys have got it still.
Now you can also notice that the lighting engineer has not had a chance to visit all three locations yet, so each of us looks a little bit different.
Yes.
Hey, you're lucky that you're getting us at all. Okay, I hope that
Well,
you.
and this is an interesting thing. I wish I had, my separate camera. I could show you that how I'm doing this for lighting is there's a little sink outside of the bathroom in this hotel room, and it has the two lights on either side of the mirror, and that's my lighting here because it's pretty dark
Nice.
in this room. So
Okay.
So the camera's in the sink.
basically, it's almost in the sink. It's there's just enough in between the edge of the thing and the sink to keep it up there. So
So everybody watch to see if we stay in sync this evening. Sorry, guys. Sorry.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
well, it's the best I could do on the spur of the moment. So tonight's show is called Whatever Happened to. Tonight we're going to talk about various personalities within the county, and on another evening we'll talk about issues like whatever happened to So Ready or whatever happened to those Merlin Fire guys. But tonight we're talking about individuals, and we've got some cutting edge news about the first one. So Bill's going to tell us from a list, and we're going to react surprised, and then we're going to try to say what we know about this person with these guys going first, and I may have a few more details, for example, on Larry Graves. Go ahead and tell us the first name. What is that first name?
Well, you just brought the first name to my mind. Why don't you go with Larry Graves? What have you got? You said you had something new, and you didn't say it was exciting. You just said it was new.
It is new news. But Mike, bring us up to speed a little bit about what you recall about Larry Graves and that kind of stuff. Not trying to put you on the spot, but you're on the
Yeah, not trying to put me on the spot, but tell us all you know about this guy.
spot.
He is the administrator of the airport, as I recall,
Yes.
and I guess he's administrator for both airports, the Ivy and the Grants Pass Airport, and he was the one who vetted. What's the name of that development company here? Hang on just a second. Uh, I'm sorry?
Manor Development.
Manor, that's the one. Manor Development. Yes, he vetted them. Probably he's probably on the team that's going to be vetting all the Syrian refugees.
Oh man.
Because that's about how effective it was.
Well, Larry Graves was the guy that said to one of the people that's renting space out there at the Grants Pass Airport, he said, well, you're trying to F me, and I'm going to F you, and F this, and F that, and he didn't say F your mother, but it came pretty close, and then Keith Hick objected, saying, do you have to use such language? And I said, listen, I'm just saying the first letter. How do you feel about the fact the guy was saying the whole word over and over and over again? So Cheryl Walker jumped in. Why, I think he's more valuable and better than your continued existence, Mr. Matthews. Wow. And so after she told Larry to cut it out, then he kept doing it. That's nice. And let's see. Out at the airport, also Larry Graves has suggested that they make on the Ivy Airport available condominiums on the airport. Now, there's a law against, there's an FAA regulation against doing non-airport related things, but he and Cheryl Walker made a special flight up to Washington State to lobby for the fact that make it okay for the Ivy Airport to put in things like condominiums at the airport.
They're going to
Oh,
sell
wow.
condoms on the airport?
Well,
On the
well, that matches with what he said to that guy out of the. Oh, don't get me started. F you. Okay, here's a condom. That's not nice. Okay, this is a family show. No, it's not. And then he, he exaggerates a little bit. Okay, Mike and I went out and we saw the thing that they had with the airport days, and it was nice. And there were hundreds of people there. Partly they were there because they had an old car exhibition and stuff. He reported back to the commissioner there were thousands and thousands. That's not true, but well, whatever. You know, there wasn't any need to exaggerate because it was a nice time. A good time was had by all. Um, the very first airport days that they had, there was a fellow out there that had a jet aircraft. It was a jet radio control aircraft. And I thought, well, this is cool because I am a member of the Academy of Model Aeronautics. I used to work with those guys a long time ago, and when they were in Washington D.C. And I thought, well, this is really cool. So I talked with the fellow there, and we're videotaping, because it was interesting to me. And he and some of the pilots there start talking about how it's kind of dangerous to fly this jet aircraft, radio-controlled jet aircraft, around people and aircraft and kids, and think of the children and all the rest of that. And Larry didn't like that. No, I didn't put words in the guy's mouth, and I didn't know what he was going to say. I just wanted him to talk about his aircraft. So he was very, very sensitive, and he is a very close political ally of Cheryl Walker. Need I say more?
Okay. News.
Oh, news about Larry Graves. Yes, right.
Yeah.
So here's what's going on out at the airport now. There's going to be a big meeting on the 30th, which is a Monday night at 4:30. And I intend to be there with the camera. I have videotaped many of those meetings in the past. And the latest controversy is about Erickson Aircraft. Erickson makes these really big lifting bodies, these real big...
Erickson air crane people.
Right.
Yeah.
And so they can no longer continue at their base that they've had in the past. And so they're looking for a new place. When I heard the county commissioners talking about this in the little back room, it was mostly Cheryl Walker talking. It was Keith Eck agreeing basically with whatever Cheryl says, and then eventually it was Simon Hare jumping in, agreeing with everything as well. And here's what they said. Listen, there should be no problem having Erickson aircraft out at the IV airport because, one, anytime some aircraft company wants to come to that airport, it's forbidden by federal law for the county commissioners to say boo about it, and they have to put up with whatever the people want to do. And it didn't work out exactly the same with the people who came in to do parachuting, because mostly public opinion kind of pushed them out, okay, and they didn't do it. But the commissioners say we have no recourse, especially Cheryl Walker saying there's nothing we can do about it. Okay, the controversy is about amount of noise. I'm sure you guys know that if you've got a really big helicopter and they're training to pick up really huge loads, that's going to make more noise, whap, 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 above you than a regular helicopter. Okay, right. So it's going to be very, very noisy, and so the devil's in the details, and just about everything having to do with the county. And so Cheryl Walker said, well, listen, we have helicopters that go out to IV, and it is an airport. They go out there to fight forest fires almost every year now, every year maybe, and so the people aren't objecting to that noise, are they? Well, I don't know if they are, but I've not heard their objections. Their answer to that, and I was just talking with some of the people who were involved in this just this evening, and they said, no, of course, all those things are true, except, have you ever heard one of these? And I said, well, actually, no. They said, well, we went out there with the decibel meter, and this thing is way above the threshold of human pain, and they fly 50 to 100 feet off the ground, and it's beyond the health requirements. You could go permanently deaf when this thing is anywhere near you. And I don't mean 5 feet away, I mean hovering above. And they have to do that. So they said as soon as the helicopter guys saw they were there and we looked like we had something in our hands, they kind of, okay, well, that's the end of the test. And Larry Graves had promised to tell everybody, including the airport board, when this test was going to happen. And their version of it is that they only got a couple hours notice, maybe 3 hours notice, and that very few people showed up. So now there's the question of, and this sounds a little bit familiar, but we need to find out more information. And so on Monday the 30th, looking at my calendar, at 4:30 at the Ivy Airport, that place is going to be packed to the gills. I'm going to arrive way early just to get a seat, because it will be basically Larry Graves and Cheryl Walker versus most of the community.
And the issue is this Erickson Air Crane thing.
Yeah, and the noise, yes.
And the noise, yeah.
Right. They're not against economic development out there. I mean, they're not fools. But this thing is right across from the Smoke Jumper Museum, and the Smoke Jumper Museum folks are saying, you know, anytime that these guys are here, Williams Miles will just shut down, because nobody's going to be able to. No one's going to be able to think. That's how noisy it is. This is their version.
Wow, I'd almost like to experience that just to know what they're talking about, because I mean I've heard.
What's that you're saying?
Yeah, I've heard some loud helicopters, but that sounds like super duper loud. How do they have? I mean, obviously you have to have a groundsman. Who ties the line to, a log or something if they're lifting out. I mean, this is sort of the purpose of these air cranes in this area, is to, pull timber out of the forest, essentially. I'm thinking, and
even bigger things, yes.
Right. So if it's that loud, how do you then have? Do they all have hearing protection that's capable of? Yeah, I see.
And but nobody else at the airport or near the airport has that.
How far away do you have to be in order to? I mean, why can't they set up an off-site location? They can take off and land there, but they set up some sort of an off-site location for them to do the actual training that would be, so offensive.
Good question, and that's what these guys are asking. Why don't you do it in a little bit further to the east, where there's nothing?
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
And then apparently somebody had asked at the last airport meeting, had asked Larry Graves, hey, well, then why don't you put it at the Grants Pass Airport? Boy, they said he got really angry. Sounds credible? I think it's knowing what we know about Larry Graves. Anyway, that's the current, are they just a bunch of whiners? The whole community? Don't know.
Now, I'm assuming that there's some monetary arrangement here between the airport and Erickson Air Crane.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And probably things like grants. And remember all the hullabaloo about putting in a helipad at the airport for the U.S. Forest Service guys? Think this is going to need a helipad?
Okay.
Yep. So it's a lot of money for Erickson to move there, and my understanding is Erickson said, if there's a bunch of community opposition, we don't want to come here. So is there going to be a bunch of community opposition? Yep.
Yeah, it would, and that's kind of a bummer that they can't accommodate them, because I'm assuming that going along with them being there is maybe 1 or 2 jobs.
They're not convinced, the people out there aren't convinced at all that anybody will get any jobs out of this, not at all, because, unless there's someone out there that knows how to handle helicopters. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe what they could do is pass out multicolored, headsets for everybody in the community. They could come out a variety of headsets with different designs and stuff on them, and anytime they come around, everybody can put their headsets on.
Right. That sounds feasible.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, next name, please.
Bill is frozen in fear.
Oh, no, not that again. I hate it when he gets like that.
Oh. And I don't have the list, so I don't know what to
Well,
do.
Bill's got some names that he thinks are good ideas to talk about, but
Mm.
well, how about if we just pick one? You and I pick one, Mike. Someone
Hmm.
that's been in the news recently where you're wondering whatever happened to that person. Boy, there are so many. Well, Mark Gatlin. Okay, whatever happened to Mark Gatlin? Mark
Well,
Gatlin,
he resigned
he resigned.
from
Yeah,
being a county or a city councilor.
city councilor. The first time I'd run up against a Mark Gatlin in anything was that he and his campaign manager were breaking the law when they were having people sign up for that the levy before this one, and that they were talking about they were telling people things that were not on the ballot listing, not on the proposal to put it on the ballot. That's against the law, especially one of these things where you're kind of like, well, it doesn't say that on here, but here's what the reality is. I mean, I heard him do it.
Well, Bill has rejoined us. I wonder, having not heard who we're talking about, who do you think we're talking about, Bill? He's frozen in fear again. Wow.
Boy, he's so fearful of speaking about anything. Well, then the next time I had a major question about this guy is that the question of Rob Brandis had come up and another vehicle inventory. And I got up at the weekly business session and mentioned that the last time there was a vehicle inventory that I knew of, the commissioners had actually sent out a small, very small task force, of which I was part of, videotaping it, where there was a guy that knew about autos, and there was one of the commissioners, in this case was Sandy Casanelli, and Rob Brandis had come up with a list of autos that they wanted to look at. And he said, here's the list. These need to be replaced because it would be too dangerous to drive these. And one of my questions was, well, if they're too dangerous to drive, what are you going to do? Well, we're going to sell them to the public. No, wait. So anyway, she said, well, why don't you let me go out and see these vehicles? And so he reluctantly said yes, reluctantly. And we went out and we looked at them. And when we got out there, I think it was me that said, or she said, I think it was me, said, but this isn't the blue Ford pickup. Yeah, well, these are different vehicles. Wait a minute. Sandy says, we were supposed to look at the vehicles that were on the list that need to be replaced. Yeah, well, but this is the same tag. He says, yeah, I switched the tags. You switched the tags? What? Who would switch the tag? Can you think of any legitimate reason why someone would switch the tags?
Well,
look at this one. It's the tag.
On your off time, you wanted to rob a bank, and you didn't want it to, you wanted it to be not very obvious. So you put the tags on a different car. I mean, that's plausible, right?
Yeah, no, here's the thing. If we're going to look at the vehicle, I don't care what tag it has. But he wanted us to look at whatever vehicle this tag was attached to.
Yeah,
now,
there's
wait
some
a minute.
Specificity there. Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
Well, okay. And then, yes, he resigned from the council. And a number of people have mentioned that he will possibly be, with a big P, oh, that doesn't sound right, a candidate for commissioner. So I viewed the guy, when we played back, when I told them about the video, Mark Gatlin got up right after me. He hadn't seen the video. And he said, this whole idea of that kind of thing is insane. He wasn't talking about Rob Brandis. He was talking about me, that the fact that there was a video was insane, and that can't possibly be true. And I said to him afterwards, Mark, have you seen the video? Well, no, we hadn't seen the video, but it's all insane. See, that's the kind of county commissioner this guy would be, and that's the reason why I didn't vote for either him or Simon here, but I counted myself lucky that it wasn't Mark Gatlin. That's my personal opinion.
Yep,
Doesn't
I'm
want
in
to see the video.
agreement.
Doesn't want to see the videotape. So, you think that we can persuade Bill to, like stop freezing up and just tell us another
I
name, please?
I don't know if that's possible. It seems. Oh, Bill is there.
Give us another name, Bill. Any other name, Bill. Don't feel tongue-tied now.
Any name at all. Just grab one out of the air.
Feel free now, Bill. Oh, he looks black. Not that there's anything wrong with that. He just looks black. That's all. Okay. Thanks,
No,
Bill.
he's just in a dark room.
That's what it is. Okay.
Yes.
Dennis Weber. Okay, because we're talking about people who are upset. Dennis Weber. Let's see. I knew Dennis Weber when I was going to Parkway Christian Center, and my personal feeling was that this is just me. It's not everybody. That I didn't want to just sit and be a consumer and he makes terrific speeches. I mean, really terrific speeches. And I picked that place because I was really impressed with the kind of speeches that he gives. And we were studying about the Bible and such things. And I really like all of the other stuff that went along with it. I was there every Wednesday and all the rest of that, as many people who are involved in churches are. And so I want to do something and not just sit there. So I volunteered to be one of the directors. There were two directors. I was one of them, of their live broadcasts and then putting it out to the public afterwards.
Right.
When I was there, I went to him and I said, look, I've got this challenge with the local high school because I'm substitute teaching there, and they're taking the money that's supposed to go to the kids and they're putting it into fancy chairs and tables for the administration. And I don't think that's right. And he told me, he said that God's people, Christians, don't get involved in politics. We let God solve it. It wasn't long, yeah. So it wasn't long thereafter where he was appointed as a city councilor.
Right. So again, the topic of Syrian refugees ought to be coming up about now. I'm guessing that we just say a prayer and hope that the politicians do it correctly, because I wonder if any of those politicians are Christians. Would they then have to abstain from voting, or how would they even run for office?
Mm-hmm.
How would that work? I don't know.
Well, so that was a bit hypocritical. But then we were at a Thanksgiving feast at the church, and he held forth at some length at our table about how the county commissioners' meetings were characterized by people who were yelling out obscenities and basically, my famous example, gnawing on the furniture. And I said, Pastor, that's just not right. One, I haven't seen you at any of these meetings. I mean, it takes some chutzpah, even as a Christian, to mention this to somebody, especially a pastor, but that's simply not happening, right? And so it's not good, in my opinion, sorry, to tell people this because you're a pastor and they're going to believe you, and that's just not true. He didn't like that very much, and I guess I can understand there's probably not a lot of people who give that kind of feedback to a pastor, but it was not true. So what do you do? You're just so divisive, Dale. Yeah, but it was a lie. Okay, I didn't use that word, but it was. So then one of the places where we had a falling out was people were bringing petitions, ballot petitions, for things such as, pardon me, just a second, please, such as a levy, that kind of thing. How do you get it on the ballot? And they were dropping them off in the lobby and walking away. Well, tell us what you know about the legality of that, Mike.
Well, I think that, chain of custody is important with documents like that, so you can't just leave them unattended someplace.
That's right. It's against state law. So I mentioned this at a city council meeting, and he came up to me afterwards and threatened me. He said, if you ever repeat that again, I will sue you on behalf of the church. And so I looked at the gentleman and I said, but it's true, and I told you about it twice, so it's not something you've forgotten. Well, you ever mention it again, and I'll sue you. And I said, I tell you what, why don't you and I go before God right now, and we'll see what he says.
Yes.
He didn't bring it up again.
Yeah, that's a little scary. Yeah, that's odd. That I guess that right and wrong and stuff is. You would think that would be the of the utmost importance to him. Yeah, interesting.
Well,
is there something new going on with him, or are we just
no? Whatever happened to he decided no longer to be a city councilor, and so he's back at part. Oh yeah, you saw him in a video. Want to tell him about the video where we saw him?
Well, yeah, the most recent appearance that I can remember him making is the one with
Mark Owens.
At Mark Gowen's church there, and it was and it wasn't he wasn't actually there live. That they played some video of him and Mark Gowen's talking to the sheriff and the police chief, pushing the levy.
Right. Pushing for
so that was last spring.
That's nice. Okay. Yeah. So, no, I haven't heard much back from this guy again. It reminds me that Rob Brandes also threatened me. You know that you're getting through to these guys when they threaten you. Rob Brandes says, if you ever bring that thing up again about changing the tags, I'll sue you. And I said, Rob, you should, because I've got the videotape. And then you can explain to people why you're on videotape confessing that you did this and change the tags. What, is that legal? He walked away muttering. He wasn't very happy.
Well, I guess there's a way of, getting around that, and that's just don't do the thing.
Yeah, don't do the thing. And then if you get caught on something, you've got a couple of choices. One is stay quiet, which is probably their best solution. Or the other one is attack the person that told the story.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting because it doesn't seem to matter whether it's Dale Matthews nailing them for something or the voters humiliating them by an 80-20 blowout. They'll come back to the same thing and attack. I guess that made them feel inferior, so they had to have a meeting where they all said how wonderful it was that they were doing the will of the voters, and
that is what they said. It's amazing.
Yeah, basically, same thing, though.
Hey, here's Bill. Hello, Bill. Welcome to our show.
Thank you so much. I got real technicals tonight. I couldn't hear anything you guys were saying.
Oh, we were talking about you, Bill.
Yes. That was the problem, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, and the name of the show is Whatever Happened to Bill Hunker.
Yes. That's right. It's live.
Yes. He's found that makes it a better picture to put the monitor on him behind him to turn it on. So yeah. So yes. that seems to help somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe not. Okay. So since we're talking about legal stuff, Mark Bartholomew.
And it's all over the place. So
yeah, he's babbling again.
Okay.
We'll include him as much as we can. We really will. Okay, yes. So Mark Bartholomew, since we're talking about legal stuff, Mark Bartholomew has obviously played a role in city politics and some in county politics. What do you remember about him, Bill? If you don't remember anything, just stay quiet. See, he doesn't remember anything. Yes. What about you, Mike?
Well, say the name again.
Good point, Bill. What about you, Mike?
I guess I didn't hear what Bill said.
Nobody did.
Okay. Essentially, he was he not was, but is the city's attorney, and the city, had him argue the case before Judge Wolke, as it related to the objection that you, Dale Matthews, and people that you represent, and and the lawyer, and who was it that he was working for? Was it Rob Pell and
he was working for the Chamber of Commerce.
Oh, for the Chamber. Okay. So anyway, and so Mark Bartholomew was arguing the case on behalf of the city, and he was the one who told us that they could impose the sales tax upon the city anytime they wanted to without a vote. So that
surprised a lot of people. And then later on, Roy Lindsay said, he never said that. He never said that. I was in the room.
Yeah, well, he never said that. We were representing the people, will of the people, et cetera. I mean, it's all the same.
It is all the same. And let's see. He was also involved in writing up the new rules about the marijuana for the city. And while a lot of people would agree with a lot of parts of that, one of them was that just the last little thing in there, you're also not allowed to possess it. No, wait a minute.
Yeah, that was weird, and it would be interesting to play the tape of that, because that's the only time that part of that legislation reared its head, and it was when it was Karen Firk.
Yes,
I think. Yeah. Okay. Yes. She was reading it, and part of it was that you couldn't possess it outside your house. Well, how could you then take it from your house anywhere in the city? You'd be a fugitive from justice from your front door until you got outside the city limits. And then, of course, if anybody ever learned that you did that, I suppose that there might be some case against you or something. Who knows?
But see, this thing about completely vetting something, this guy is paid by city residents such as myself to represent the city and to make sure that that kind of embarrassing thing doesn't end up on there.
Of course. And so why wouldn't you just turn to your coworker and say, I'm going to read this to you, and then you just come back at me with whatever your impression is, okay?
Because if you don't, who's going to come back? I might be one of them that comes back and says, "What are you doing? You can't have that in there."
No,
it doesn't. No. It's gonna. The whole thing is going to be defeated because of one tiny phrase. The whole thing might be. They're not going to come in and say, "Just take out these words and everything will be okay." No, they're going to throw the whole thing out. You jeopardize the entire thing they were voting on.
Since they already passed it, wouldn't you then, if this ever comes?
Because they took it out. They took it out before passing it. Thank heaven. And you know who pointed it out to him?
Bill Hunker?
Yes, and Bill, take a bow for what you did.
I'm here momentarily to do that.
I don't see him bowing.
I'm joining only for a moment so I can take the glory. Whatever you guys were talking about, I really don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, while you're here with us, tell us what you know about, another lawyer, Wally Hicks. What's Wally Hicks been up to? Whatever happened to Wally Hicks?
Well, Wally, came in on a big wave when Steve Rich had competition. And for whatever reason, either the public's awareness or the mood of the electorate, he wrote in with 62%, something like that, and took over. I think Wally's been swamped. I think he's been buried with lots of ghosts that have climbed out of file cabinets for some time, and he's really tried to get a handle on things. I have noticed a shift in the little I've watched or kept up with, and some of the things I've picked up, quotes on the street. But Wally, I think the jury is deliberating, as it were, in a little bit. He comes credentialed, certainly comes with a lot of high hopes when he came into office, and I think many of us still have very high hopes for him. That's really about all I know about what's currently going. I've met with Wally really only one time, just as he first took office. We had a very pleasant short visit. And so on a personal basis, I don't know Wally enough to, throw flowers or eggs at this point. And, okay, is anybody talking? I've lost audio, guys.
I saw Dale's lips moving, but I couldn't hear him, and he must have been muted.
Okay.
Okay, so
yeah, he was.
Anyway, okay. So, Mike, why don't you tell us what you know about what's been happening with Wally Hicks?
Well, all I know is that during the meeting when they were discussing the potential for the county commissioners to be approving the fee structure of the fire service provider people, Dale, I guess, asked him afterwards, why were you guys talking about that, or something along these lines. Third-hand information here. And then he says that never happened. And so that's kind of where we're at with Wally on that one.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
Well, I heard the story, and it certainly is second, third hand at least to me, about the meeting that was not posted. And a lot of people would say, well, the meeting being posted, they can't do everyone perfect every time. I understand. But there's been quite a bit about posting meetings and making meetings available to the public. So much so that Ethics Committee finally got involved. Between the commissioners were about. So mentioning recently that there was a meeting that was not posted. What I heard back, that I heard, that it was, I guess it was, and I didn't see him, but he ended up saying it's okay to go. And all I can imagine there is that Wally, in front of the people he works with at that moment, regardless of the situation with the, to side with you when Dave Daniels sitting there and Cheryl, and just probably kind of a little tricky for him at that point.
Yeah, what Bill just said kind of reminds me of. Did everybody see? And I'm sure you guys did see Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yes.
And you remember at the end when they were trying to flash the lights and the horns and stuff to communicate with the aliens. That's kind of like what I'm getting from Bill right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
yes.
Bill apologizes, really. Right. Okay. So the other thing was that the commissioners have gotten in trouble with the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, and they just announced today or yesterday they announced it, and it was in today's Courier, that they are going to appeal this OGEC ruling. Simon Hare says, I'm certain that everyone will find that I've obeyed the letter and the spirit of the law. Now, there's a little bit of a problem because they know that they were breaking the law. Now, how are they going to say they didn't know they were breaking the law when they say they know the law and they were aware that they were breaking it, and it's not anywhere near the spirit of the law?
Well, one thing that I noticed is that you said they're appealing the ruling. you can't appeal the ruling unless there has been a ruling, which is something they denied after you came up and said you guys have been found guilty, which of course was the ruling.
That's exactly
Uh,
right. And
uh,
I bring this up now because of Wally Hicks, because Wally was sitting right in the same meetings with them. I think what their argument's going to be is Wally Hicks was sitting right there with us. And so even though we were breaking the law, no, we weren't, because Wally Hicks was there, and that's kind of like, some kind of invisible barrier between us and the law.
yeah, they're throwing Wally under Scott Chansey's bus there.
Yeah. Well, Herman Bertschiger. Now, Herman Bertschiger has been involved. He is our state senator from this area. You don't hear much from Herman Bertschiger, and I bring this up because of secret meetings. And we'll end with that part. But Mike, when was the last time that we got information from Herman Bertschiger?
Well, you and I went to a meeting that was talking about mining laws and stuff like that, and Herman Bertschiger just happened to be there. And every time I hear Bertschiger, I think of some type of a pest that only hassles bears.
Oh, brother.
You know?
Okay.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Herman. I didn't mean to. But the most recent, and we spoke to him about a number of topics. We interviewed him on a number of topics at that time. But then just recently, you played a tape from last February that was a legislative update meeting that these guys had very, very early in the morning, in which there was a number of city councilors. There was Wally Hicks. There was, at that particular time, Keith Heck, and they were discussing, and apparently, from what you have told me, they continue to have those meetings twice a month, but you're not allowed to go to them anymore.
We were all allowed there because I'm there with the camera and I can't say anything, and they don't even acknowledge that I'm in the room, which is okay with me. But everybody could see. I wanted everybody in the community to see what our elected representatives up in Salem were saying and doing for us, and I found it to be pretty interesting. So, but Wally, plus Colleen Martin at the, don't want to leave her out, at the Chamber of Commerce, plus the commissioners, plus what's his name from the city council, my favorite city councilor, Roy Lindsay. They decided that the public would no longer be allowed, although they always were in the past, to attend these things, and certainly not to show the videotape of what they're saying, even if the commissioners are in a quorum, which we know they have been, and with Wally Hicks sitting right there. Go ahead and say it's not true, Wally. You go right ahead, bud. And so the one we showed was only with Commissioner Heck. So then there's a question that kind of goes back to Herman Bertschiger. Herman knows because I've talked to him about it. What's up with this lack of transparency, Herman? Don't you want people to know? I mean, how often do we get a chance to hear from you what's happening in there anyway? And instead, what you're doing is you're talking to this little group of people who wants to know what's happening. We all would like to know what's happening. You do have it within your power to say, hey, guys, let me weigh in on this. I think everybody should be invited. He does not want to. So what does that say about Herman Bertschiger? I like Herman. But Herman, why can't everybody look at this? And I don't hear him answering.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with it seems as though, and this is it's like a disease.
Yes.
People get elected and then all of a sudden they never wanted to be in an exclusive club before, and now all of a sudden they don't want any colored folk in the clubhouse, or something like that. And it shouldn't really be that way, that there's some exclusive thing, because they're doing our business. Now, I could see if they were talking about strategy about how to repel the invasion of the Canadians or something like that. That might be something that they didn't want in public, but everything else pretty much should be out there, I would think, for public consumption.
Now, we're not trying to leave out our colleague here, but let's see if he has anything to add, if he can. Nope. Nope. So we're not being rude to him. Oh, there he is. No. Good.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Huge delay, but yeah, I just can add a little bit to the whole talk of this transparency, which is you look federal, you look state, you look right down to the local. It seems like they just want to keep it smaller and smaller groups because information's power. And if we can control the information, we can control more of the power than if we didn't have, if we only have the information.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because what do? I mean, you're our viewers. You know what it is that we do. We pull in information like what just happened with Larry Graves. We pull it in, and as soon as we possibly can, we share it all with you. We don't hoard that information and say, okay, now this is going to make us more powerful. We're trying to make you more powerful. We're even trying to, on Sundays and Wednesdays, have you vote on things and send out emails saying, here are people, it's not including your name, we don't know your name, and no one's going to be retaliating against you. They'll retaliate against us. That's okay. We're used to that. But we're trying to give you the information so that you'll be empowered, not these guys, because you are the bosses. Well, that's my point, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, speaking of information, one of the things that happened with this, probably should have talked about it earlier, with this thing about the manor development, is one of the prime movers there with the people who were Simon Hare's biggest contributors when he was running for office was Jim Frick. And Jim was involved in that project. In fact, the guys that were setting it up had an office in there with Jim, in his offices, his real estate offices. And Mike remembers very well what Jim Frick's response was when people brought up some questions. We just had questions and we weren't getting any answers. When we just brought up the questions about manor development and Larry Osborne, what was Jim Frick's response, Mike?
Well, I wasn't at that meeting, but I do remember having seen the video of it that he thought that the people that were objecting to manor development were a bunch of nervous Nancys and that he was seriously considering moving to like Wyoming or Montana or something like that. Idaho, okay, yeah.
Idaho, right. It was very strange that it was just that meeting where we sat and we stood and talked with Herman Bertschiger. Jim Frick came up to us.
Yes.
You remember that?
Which was months after this thing had taken place, this meeting, and he said, "Oh, I love your guys' show." And it was so great, and I thought, wow, this guy obviously has not been watching the show. Either that or he's just totally fine with being criticized, which I think is, if that's the case, then good on him. I have to tell you that for whatever, I thought about Jim Frick for doing that and being involved in that whole morass there with manor development, he did have the cojones to come to this mineral withdrawal meeting and speak his mind and say something counter to what the entire group was pushing there.
Now there were other people that were there, including at least one person that's running for county commissioner who was there, and they didn't get up and say anything.
Yeah. Well.
And what's that guy's name? He purports to be a lawyer. That's not nice. What's that guy's name? He used to be president of SORA.
Jack Swift, you're talking
Jack
about.
Swift. Jack Swift was there. Jack Swift didn't say anything. I did, but Jack didn't. So later I go to a SORA meeting, Southern Oregon Resource Alliance, and I just go at the very beginning just to say, listen, guys, why didn't you get up and say anything? Why wasn't everybody from SORA there at that meeting? And one of the ladies that's been involved with SORA right from the very beginning, since the beginning of time, we don't need anyone criticizing us. After I left, I understand that Jim Frick said, Dale was right. We probably really should have gotten up and said something. Well, yes, he could say that because he did.
Right. Yeah. So you know what? Listen, I'll give people opportunity to be right one day and wrong the next, or vice versa.
Well, we need that opportunity. Mike and I do.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
What about you, Bill? You want to be right or wrong today?
Poor Bill.
He's too afraid to answer.
Bill, yes. Well, you know what? I tend to think, Bill, and if you can hear me, yes, you are probably too far from the router, because you can only get so much distance out of those. I know in my house, mine is out in the front room, and if you get more than 20, 30 feet from it, you're not going to get very consistent, Wi-Fi. So
yeah, and we'll try to be a little more consistent, would you? Really, Bill? Come on now. Now, we don't need to talk about Lisa Shipley because we just did a show about her last night.
That's right. Yeah, we did.
We don't need to talk about Diane Hoover because we just did a show about her on Sunday. A.J. Schofield and Arthur O'Hare, we're going to talk about some other time, the HR director and the finance director. But why don't we end up talking about some people hate him, other people love him, other depend on him. It's been a little strange with us recently. Dave Daniel.
Well, yeah, he did kind of drop off of the radar after he stopped talking to us. But he did recently assist in launching, or maybe Channel 10 assisted him in launching another, push to bring Josephine County, the dire public safety situation in Josephine County, front of mind for people.
Now, one of the reasons why he's so upset with us, because it started off very happy. I mean, he took us on a tour of the jail. He didn't keep us in there. We laughed and we joked with the guy. We made it clear that after the levy was defeated, that we were still getting up at the weekly business session and still saying, hey, you could still support this guy, while all the people from Cuffs and SOS were nowhere to be found. We were doing it. Mike?
Yeah, and I think that, ultimately those are his people, so he is going to stick with them, and I think that he doesn't really, or the people that he's sticking with, they don't want just a chance endowment of timber money from the general fund that may or may not happen one year or the other, because that's not permanent, if you want to say. And so they want to always be pushing for a levy because they figure, sooner or later it's going to pass or something like that. And so I think that's what they're pushing for, and that's why he doesn't talk to us anymore.
That's a really nice way of putting it, Mike. Another way of putting it also would be that they've decided that you need to do something in between. If this levy doesn't pass, and they're already planning the next levy, we know that they are. Okay, what do you do in between?
Yeah,
okay,
but
really an emergency, then you pay for it any way that you can that's legal, right?
Yeah, but you know what? Listen, there's a reason why, is that if you have money that comes in, that interrupts the narrative that there's a dire need for more money because, hey, we just got $1 million from heaven here. And so and then people will go, well, you got that $1 million. See, they don't want that happening. What they want is to raise your property taxes. That's the one and only thing they're interested in doing.
Well, he said many times that he's not political, but he's just political enough to, this is going to sound really bad, he's just political enough to have the danger level, according to them, be a little bit higher to achieve this bigger goal of passing another levy.
Yeah, and that's about as political as you can get. Yeah. And
Now,
we saw the theatrics. Everybody did. I mean, Bill
oh
was
yeah,
there when they had this press conference, and they made a big production out of it. And
and they said
that's
about the facts supplied by Bill Hunker. They said that those were myths.
yeah, that's right, myths.
Myths.
Yeah.
And what we've said several times is one of the main reasons why the sheriff doesn't want to talk to us anymore is because of the power of Bill Hunker, whether he actually can speak or not. Can you speak?
I can speak. I'm actually fairly stable right now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
He's a stable personality. Yeah, that's him.
Well, the stability comes in fits and starts, as you can see.
Yes. Well, as long as you're in one of
it's,
your fits, tell us what you're going to do and joining us on Monday if Mike agrees.
Well, I was this weekend. I check in periodically to see how the stats are coming, and the 2014 stats came out.
Yay!
And, yes, finally. And I had checked the previous week and nothing again, and I thought, well, who knows. But over the weekend, it said, think that they showed up. So on Tuesday, I checked in, and there they are.
Now, you got to tell us what that means. Tell us what it means. What do you mean 2014 stats?
It means that the crime is just about the same as it was the previous year, with a 2% change shifted between the county and the city. So the city is slightly down, or noticeably down, actually. Statistically, it's not just a blip. And we have a slight raise, but that raise is because I took all of the OSP calls and gave them to the county. And so it's splitting. Last year split at 86-14, 86 city, 14 county. This year it's an 84-16. And so that's the difference. And yet the county or the city was down a bit. OSP was up a bit. And but I took all the OSP numbers and dumped them to the county, and we're still fine.
So Bill, what does this mean in aggregate? Okay, so that guy out in Sunny Valley will like hearing about this. What does this mean in aggregate about the claims from the pro-levy people and from the sheriff that the crime is going through the roof? Property crime is increasing, but the crime is going through the roof, and this is an emergency situation. Now, once again, what does that mean to that argument?
It means that it has no more air than it has ever had. We're down still noticeably from years ago, from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It's been coming down. It was a slight go back up, and we show the graphs. It'll show quite clearly. But last year, the graphs will be very clear that the city had more crime than they did in 14. 13 had more crime. And again, the split. People say, "Oh, we've got to have 35, 40, 50, whatever detective patrol people out there," and it's the crime in the county. People, my impression is people in the county are taking care of themselves a lot more than they were. Now, what they'll get as a counter argument is, "Oh, they're not calling, they're not turning these in. This is all happening, but they're not turning it in." Yeah. And that's it's a great rallying cry to say that. But once you say that, you have to say it for every other single county and every reporting group, that there are people who are not reporting crime. Yes.
Well, Mike, he's frozen, but you know what? In watching his video, you're the one in California. Why does he look like he's in the middle of an earthquake?
Yeah, well, it's instability there. I think that there's ways of fixing his thing to where it will be as pristine as as anything could be.
He's gone now.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that Monday. Awesome.
Right. So this is the thing that the other side on this, okay, and they are on the other side, has said all along. Well, where's your 2014 stats? Where are they? Huh? Where are they? Well, that's going to really shock. Boy, first they said, well, the 2013 and 14, and then when 2013 didn't bear out any of the things they were saying. Well, okay, where's your answer? Where's your answer? Huh? Huh? And so now that we've got it, well, you know what they're going to say. It's their two-word answer to everything, Mike.
2 words.
Two letter.
Oh,
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? They're not interested in reality most of the time. It's more about how they can facilitate more funding for city or county government, and that's it's unfortunate, because in all this clamoring for more funds, you don't know what's actually really needed. You only know what they want. And it's so this we're just going to have to stay on top of them with this stuff. They're not going to be able to get away from these numbers unless they somehow persuade the OSP to be complicit with them and help them to get a levy passed by lying about how the crime is out of control or something.
And that's not working because that makes the OSP look bad too. Okay, so
yeah.
Mike did mention something about denial of reality. Isn't that interesting? Tomorrow night, we're going to have a show where we're talking just like this, including Bill, we hope, and we're going to talk about denial of reality, about people who are saying, that's not on the tape. Oh, that's not what the statistics show. Oh, nobody watches your show. You're not media of any kind. We weren't found guilty of anything. Denial of reality. How's that working for them? 20% of the people are willing to believe it.
Yes, that's right.
Now, little note for you, everybody out in the audience. Next week, the county commissioners will not be meeting on Wednesday morning. Yeah, they didn't meet this week at all. Yesterday, they didn't meet. Next week, we just discovered this. They put out their agenda for the weekly business session, and I didn't catch this either. And I'm looking, and Sandy Casanelli says, hey, did you happen to notice? I didn't see it, because I'm one of those people that thinks that Christmas is on the 25th. It is, but somehow it seems to me like Thanksgiving is on a Thursday, but isn't that the 25th? No, it's not this year. It's not the 25th. So they're going to be meeting on Tuesday at 1:30. 1:30. And so Tuesday at 1:30, as Bill was just saying, the county commissioners are going to be meeting. What are they going to be talking about, Bill?
Yeah, poor Bill.
Sorry, Bill. It's not fair.
Can you hear me again? I'm going to probably drop out just like Bill because my battery is critical here. So.
Oh, okay. Well, everybody. Some people have a heart condition and others don't. So sorry to say.
Say good night, Bill.
Yes.
You've come back just in time to say good night. So don't forget, this Sunday we'll have another show where you can vote. Don't forget that you can vote on yesterday's show as much as you want, or if you haven't already, up until Sunday afternoon. Then Sunday evening, you can vote on whatever we present that evening. And then on Monday night at 4:30 out in the IV, if you want to go there, there'll be this meeting about the noise and et cetera, and what Cheryl Walker wants to push there at the airport. And then on Tuesday at 1:30, an odd time, they'll be having the weekly business session. We'll keep you informed about it. That's what we do. We'll hold their feet to the fire. That's what we do. And we'll make sure that you're as informed as possible. And now we're going to try to get you to also vote on things. Either one of you gentlemen have something to add to that?
No.
Okay. I see that Mike's battery is running out. What about you, Bill?
Good night. Goodbye.
Bill is waving goodbye. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.